Hey guys, it's Beth, and I finally finished my school-themed cards, so I just wanted to jump on and show you those real quick. And I do apologize, I have a summer cold, so my voice is kind of in and out, and there's probably going to be some sniffling and throat clearing and all that, so please bear with me through that. But like I said, finally finished using up the school papers here out of my All Seasons 3 pad from the paper studio that I've been working on for most of summer. And when I started the cards, I had 3 sheets of this I Love School patterned, scraps here of this pattern, and then about 2.5 sheets of this pattern here. So what, about 5.5 12 by 12 sheets plus some scraps. And if you watched my last video where I showed you some of the other school projects I had done, you heard my 2 challenges with these papers. One, they were very bright and bold, big patterns, which are sometimes kind of hard for me to work with, especially when it comes to cards. And then the other thing is that even though the colors were similar, I didn't feel that the patterns went well together. So when I tackled the cards, I kind of tackled them like one pattern at a time. I didn't really mix them like you normally would if you were, using different papers from a pad. So when I worked through them, I just kind of treated each pattern individually. So I did use sketches like normal, and I tried to find sketches that would use like bigger chunks of the pattern paper like quickly. So the first sketch I started with was Freshly Made Sketches number 226, and I started with this I Love School pattern. And so I ended up cutting, with the size that this was, I got 24 cards out of that, and that used up most of that paper. And then this was also nice because I had this green cardstock in my stash, and I believe it was from a Hobby Lobby clearance paper pack, and I had a ton of it. I don't know if I had multiple packs that had it in it, or somehow I ended up with a ton of this color, and I like the color, but it's just not a color I use very often. So I was kind of glad that it went well with that green here, just so I could try and get some of that used up. And then this Coolest Teacher Ever sentiment it was a silhouette image that I just printed out and punched out. And this project was also good because it helped me use up, I just went through my black cardstock scraps and found a bunch of strips that I could cut down and use for this card. So like I said, I got 24 of those. So then with what was left of the I Love School paper, I used Mojo Monday sketch number 332. And instead of the tag, I just used this rectangle piece that I had left and backed it on some black cardstock and brought in some red this time, but still used some of the green scraps I had to make stars just to embellish. And so that made 12 of that style. And then that used up all of the I Love School pattern, and I didn't even have any tiny scraps. So when I decorated the insides of the cards of these, I just used the black and green and red cardstock scraps that I had. So that was kind of nice. So then I moved on to my favorite pattern out of this section, which was this kind of chalkboard letter practice with all the letters on it. And so I loved that. I loved the vintage feel of it. And so on my silhouette, I found this image it had thank you, and then it had an apple. And so I just kind of changed up the colors of the apple because it was like a really bright red with a pink heart and a bright green stem. And so I just kind of made the red a little more muted, changed the pink to a tan, and then kind of like a more muted green as well. So just printed out a sheet of those and cut them down to be like a little journal card size. And then here I just trying to, just cut my pattern paper to be, 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, just so covered most of my card front, and it used up a bunch of that paper. So I got a bunch of that style as well. And then here is my favorite thing, sketch number 167. And just kind of used up some of the smaller pieces that I had left of this pattern, and then I liked that combination of the red and the tan with it, and so I just backed it on red this time, and then brought in some tan scraps that I had and cut them into stars. And then with the scraps that I had left, I have 2 kind of miscellaneous cards. This one was actually 2 pieces that I put together and then just covered the gap here with a red strip of cardstock. And then I had one of these thank you cards left that I just kind of matted with some of that tan and put it in the middle. But I don't know, I just for some reason love that combination of the tan and this grayish blackish blue and the red. So then I have one that has just some little strip pieces that I had left and kind of spaced them out evenly on this card. This is another sentiment for my silhouette, All That Awesome in One Teacher. Just printed that out and cut it down. And then just kind of balanced it out down here with some red stars. And on this one, I did have some pattern paper strips left that I could embellish on the inside. So that was my favorite pattern, and then I saved my least favorite pattern for last, hoping that by the time I worked through all these, my mojo would have kicked in and kind of helped me figure out how to use up this paper. And I think it helped. It did help because I was able to get through it fairly quickly. This is Sweet Sunday sketch number 220. And so this one actually had dimensions on it for me, but I kind of ignored them because I wanted to use up, I had like 6 pieces of this pattern in this size right here. And so I just wanted to use it as it was. I didn't want to have to create any more scraps that I was going to have to use. So I just used the size I had and kind of tweaked the sketch to work around that. So, and then just used various cardstock strips down here. I think there's white and teal, and then just used stars to embellish down there. And then my favorite thing, sketch number 393. And these were actually strips. They were like, I don't know, maybe 2 inches by 12-inch strips that I had left. And so I just cut them down and pieced them together on my black mat here. And then the gap that was here, I just covered up with this black and white cardstock layer. But then I offset my cardstock strip here so that it wasn't like right down the center, that it was kind of like either to the top or the bottom of, you know, where the gap was. And then I just stamped my thank you and added a big green star just to kind of embellish it and give it a little bit of something else. And here is Operation Right Home number 57. And it was, you know, just using up some of the scraps that I had. Got a few of those. And then this last sketch you see all the time, one of my all-time favorites, Operation Right Home, sketch number 154, just because it helps me use up some of those little scrap pieces. And so this time I actually pulled in some pink scraps to punch some stars. And then on that one I did the teal. So, but I got 2 of those. And then this was the usable scraps that I had left. So had I known I had this, I would have totally used it, but this I didn't find until I was cleaning up when I was done. And so I think I'm going to save this since it has a vintage feel. I'm going to save it and throw it in my junk journal stash, and so it could be used, you know, kind of on a vintage style junk journal. And then this was the other scraps that I had left that I did not use, and I am okay with that for once because I just really did not like that paper. I don't know what my deal was, but... So anyway, I ended up with 66 A2 sized cards out of that. So their A2 is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I got 66 of those, and since they are school themed, I am going to save them and use them as staff appreciation, like thank you cards for my daughter's school. Now, earlier this spring when I did a school pad, I also had some thank you cards that I could use for staff appreciation. And since I didn't finish those in time to use for this year, I'm going to save those. So now I have like probably 2 years worth of thank you cards for staff at my daughter's school. So that's good. You know, I'm good with having a stash saved up for that. So now as far as just kind of an update on where I am on this pad, I was so wanting to be done with this by the end of July, but I'm just not sure I'm going to make it. Right now, I'm working on the spring patterns here, but I still have Christmas and winter and Valentine's Day and summer and birthday to use, so I'm really only halfway through. So I don't think it's going to happen by the end of July. I was really hoping to finish by the end of July so that in August I could join Daniela Hayes's challenge of No Scraps Left Behind. If I could finish this at the beginning of August, I might still be able to do it because the pad I have in mind, the Halloween pad I have in mind, is not huge, so I might be able to finish it still in the month, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes because I have some other stuff that I need to do this week as well, but that's where I am. I hope you guys got some usable ideas out of this, and I will link all of the sketches in the description box below for you. But if you have any questions, please do let me know. And I thank you guys so much for your time today. Thanks for sticking with me through this long pad project, and I hope you guys have a crafty rest of your week.